Hello, and thanks for taking an interest in this video, where we today will be looking into the Smith Premier number 10. Smith Premier was a company founded by four brothers who initially ran a weapons factory. Through an engineer in their employ, the Smith Premier number 1 was designed, produced and sold. A machine that would turn out to be so successful that the brothers would decide to shift their focus from weapons to typewriters. A bit later, together with Remington, Yost, Densmore and Calligraph, they would go on to found Union Typewriters Co., a joint venture for typewriter manufacturing and marketing. At first, all members of the Union Typewriter Co. made upstrike or blind typers, meaning the type arms struck the platen from below where the typer couldn't see what he just typed until the paper was forwarded farther out. The trend of visible typewriters was on the rise now, machines where the user could instantly see whatever was typed. It was started by brands such as the Dougherty, Williams and Oliver, but it was perhaps truly set ablaze by the success of Underwood. The Smith brothers wanted to have their Smith Premier brand abandon the blind upstrike and make their machines visible as well. The board of the Union Typewriter Co., however, argued that they should instead establish a new brand that could carry all the risk of trying this new approach. If it didn't work, they could just bankrupt the new brand and continue as before with the others. For this reason, Union Typewriter Co. established the company Monarch, which would go on to make the Monarch Visible number 1, which made its debut in 1904. The Smith brothers were so annoyed with this that they sold all their shares of stock and abandoned Union Typewriter Co. altogether. They couldn't bring the brand Smith Premier along with them, so instead they started the company L.C. Smith & Bros. This new venture would go on to later merge with Corona to become one of the most successful producers of portable typewriters in the world, Smith Corona. The brothers' first machine, the L.C. Smith & Bros number 1, was launched in 1905. It did pretty well for itself, as did many other visible machines, which of course led even Union Typewriter Co. to see that this was the way. Therefore, even Smith Premier shifted their focus and completely redesigned the core mechanics, turning the known double keyboard layout into a front strike machine that would be released in 1908 as the Smith Premier number 10. The most notable feature of the Smith Premier is of course the double keyboard layout, even if it isn't a unique trait. I've had several discussions with people on the matter on exactly why some companies struck with this, and the general consensus seems to land on that back then there was just people who felt that this was the best way. The shift was a feature that disrupted good typing flow, or so they thought. Manufacturers like Yost, Columbia, Barlock, Jewett and Calligraph were some of the others that embraced this approach. To us now in the modern world, we are so used to the shift feature. It may seem insane to us that a set of double keyboards like this would be even considered to be more efficient, but we have to take into consideration that touch typing wasn't really established as a thing yet. Even the Smith Premier 10 user manual includes a passage stating that there is no shift key to confuse the operator. Among all the manufacturers that made double keyboard layouts, Smith Premier stuck with it the longest. The number 10 was the last machine to abandon the layout, citation needed, and was produced all the way up to 1921, even though most of the other manufacturers had abandoned it around 15 years earlier. Oh, and while on the subject of the keyboard, you may have noticed some of the keys here have a pair of washers made of cork under them. These are here to dampen how hard you hit the key, as the character on the slug on these letters is so small that you run the risk of puncturing the paper with them, or worse, you chip the platen now that the old rubber has all but turned to stone. When looking at pictures of the machine, it looks like a huge beast, but this is probably mostly due to the double keyboard. Weighing in at 13.1 kilos, this machine is actually a bit lighter than some of its contemporaries. While it is about as wide as most other machines, it does probably stretch a bit farther towards the back of your desk, of course. The machine has most of the functions you would expect of a machine from the late 10s or early 20s in the 1900s, but let's go through them and how they are operated, in the order you would go through them when wanting to type something out. Paper is fed into the machine the way we're used to. The paper fingers holding the paper down is then aligned with the edges of the paper. These are simply slid side to side, though despite cleaning and brushing these down, they are a bit of a tight fit and they don't slide that easy anymore. We then want to set margins. On many machines the margins are visible from the top, but with this the margins are set on the back. That's alright though, the engineers thought about that. You simply reach around and flip the entire tabulator and margin system up. It is by doing this that we now see the one problem this particular machine has. The right margin is missing completely. This is not a huge problem, but it does mean that there won't be any ding when you reach the end of the line. While we have this piece flipped up, we can also look into the tab stops, or as Smith Premier calls these, the column finder stops. While we see these fins on many machines, this one has a couple of nifty details. First of all, we can count 8 pins here. Also note that the bottom of each of these pins have some varied shapes, but also that there are 2 of each shape. Now note on how on the side here it says A. This rod can actually be rotated like this. See now how this side says B. I'm pretty sure you're putting the pieces together already, but let's move on step by step here. Looking at the front of the typewriter, we see on the right side here red keys numbered 1, 2, 3, and 4. These are the tabs, or column finders. At first, my assumption was that these would be some sort of decimal tab system, but it is actually more clever than that. Each of these keys lifts an arm by the column finder stops, but while there is just one arm each lever moves, that arm has 4 different locations. Each location perfectly aligned with each of the 4 shapes on the bottom of each of the column finder stops. With all this put together, this means that with this machine you can define 4 to 8 column stops where you can jump to any of the first 4 stops. Next, we want to decide what kind of line forwarding we want. This is easily controlled through this little rod. Lift it up, push it either back or forth to select single line, double line, or triple line forwarding. In this machine, I've installed a single colored green ribbon, but if this was a bichrome ribbon with, for example, black and red color, I would also have to decide what color I wanted. This is cycled through using this key. Pressing it over and over simply cycles through the upper and lower color. If we were of the old school and wanted to create stencils, we would simply put our finger on the lever that points to the selected color and pull it down to the white stencil option. As for the ribbon itself, let's have a quick look at the spools and ribbon forwarding as well as reverse mechanism. The spools are positioned on the rod in the rear. They were designed to be replaceable, but one more so than the other. Both can be removed, but only the left one easily so. Simply pull on this rod right here and the left spool drops out. If you spooled all the ribbon over to this spool, released the remaining ribbon from the right spool, and just pulled it through, you could then just replace the left spool and pull the new ribbon through the mechanism. A process that I would add really isn't as simple as one would want, which is probably why most machines not long after this place their spools on the top. As a final addition regarding the ribbons, on the side of the machine is a lever that can be used to easily forward the ribbon. If you wanted to manually reverse the direction of the ribbon, either automatically or by using the lever, simply move the ring right behind the lever to either side. And that's about it. We are ready to do some typing. I hope you found this video interesting. Feel free to leave any questions or suggestions in a comment if you feel there's something missing or something could be improved upon. So until next time, stay happy and stay typing.